Welcome back to TalkBacks, where the quiet ones don't just get even, they get epic. In this episode, the gloves are off, and so are the masks. First, a nosy neighbor weaponizes the HOA against a single mom, until the violations land right back in her backyard and cost her the house. Then, an office snake thinks she's smart enough to sabotage a coworker's reputation, until HR opens a very revealing email thread and flips the script. And finally, a groom out to be ghosts his fiancée days before the wedding, but she doesn't cry. She turns the ceremony into a full-blown financial takedown. Let's get into it. I bought my first house 2 years ago. It was a small 2-bedroom on a quiet street, a little outdated, but all mine. A fresh start after a nasty divorce and a lifetime of renting. The only thing I didn't choose. Janice, the neighbor from hell. Janice introduced herself before I even moved in. I was repainting the mailbox, and she walked up with a clipboard and a smile that never touched her eyes. "Welcome to the neighborhood. You'll want to read this." She handed me a 14-page printout of HOA bylaws, with the most frequently violated ones highlighted in yellow. Red flag? Absolutely. But I was tired. I just nodded. Within a week, I got my first HOA warning. Trash can left out for more than 12 hours. Grass half an inch too long. Both reported by an anonymous neighbor. But everyone knew who it was. Over the next 6 months, she reported me for leaving a garden hose in the front yard, hanging wind chimes that were too loud, parking my car facing the wrong direction on the street, painting my fence the exact same color it already was. Each time, I got a letter. Each time, I had to either pay a fine, appeal it, or fix a non-existent problem. I tried talking to her. She just smiled and said, "Rules are rules. Some people just don't belong in HOA communities." That line stuck with me. I started calling her Queen Karen of the Coven. But I wasn't going to let her win. So I took a deep breath and started planning. I went on long walks. With a camera, I photographed every home on the street. Not to retaliate, but to document. And guess what? Janice's property. A goldmine of violations. Her back fence extended for feet beyond her property line. She had a shed built without HOA approval. Her sprinkler runoff was draining directly into the community storm channel, an environmental code breach. And her jackpot, she had installed an above-all-ground pool without a permit directly over the septic field. I didn't confront her. I compiled it. Labeled folder zip drive. Physical copies. Then I submitted the whole thing anonymously to the HOA, the local zoning board, and the city's environmental services division. I didn't hear anything for a week. Then, chaos. 3 city trucks showed up at her property. HOA officers in palas with clipboards followed. There was yelling. There was crying. There was tape, actual tape, around the backyard. She tried to claim I'd fabricated everything. The HOA wasn't having it. They cited her for 7 violations, issued $12,000 in fines, and told her the pool had to go immediately. But the pool had caused underground damage. Removing it would cost even more. 2 months later, a for sale sign went up. By the end of the year, Janice was gone. Her house was bought by a retired school librarian who bakes lemon squares and watches birds. I mow my lawn at 7 a.m. Hang as many wind chimes as I want. And my trash can live wherever it wants now. If someone plays HOA like a weapon, just make sure you aim it back with better paperwork. And now, let's talk about a toxic coworker who thought she could lie her way up the corporate ladder, only to find herself fired by the very people she tried to manipulate. If you've ever had a coworker smile to your face, stab you in the back, this one's for you. Her name was Bex. She joined our team 6 months after me and immediately set her sights on being the most valuable asset in the department. Translation, she was going to get ahead, no matter who she had to step on. Unfortunately, I was her ladder. At first, we got along fine. She asked questions. I answered them. She complimented my presentations. She offered to help with admin stuff when I was busy. I thought we were just coworkers being professional. Then, one Friday afternoon, I got called into HR. There have been some concerns raised about your performance. Excuse me? They had a list. Missed client calls, late reports, unreliable communication, negative team feedback. I was stunned. None of it was true. When I asked who had raised the concerns, they said it was anonymous, but strongly worded. That night, I couldn't sleep. The next week, I got moved off to major accounts. No meetings, no projects, just support work. Beck, meanwhile, got promoted to client lead. I was devastated, but not stupid. So I started digging. First, I looked through shared folders. Several of the reports I'd supposedly missed. I had completed them, but the files had been moved into unrelated folders, likely by someone else. Second, I looked through our email chains. Becca had forwarded threads to HR, but trimmed my responses. Like, Becca, can you take this client call tomorrow? HR saw, no reply. But the original thread? Me, yes, already confirmed with them for 2 p.m. She had manipulated conversations. She created the illusion of incompetence. So I started screenshotting everything. Next, I checked Slack. She'd messaged me instructions for a project, but told the team I ignored her completely. Luckily, Slack has timestamps, and my replies were there. I compiled a full PDF. 17 fake accusations. 17 clean receipts. All time-stamped. With context. I titled it, Performance Reality Report. Then I booked a meeting with HR. I didn't ask. I walked in, handed them the flash drive, and said, I believe this clears things up. They looked concerned. Very concerned. Especially the part where Becca bragged in one Slack message that she was going to clear the dead weight out of the department by Q2. I left the meeting and went back to my desk. The next day, Becca wasn't at work. Her desk was cleaned out by noon. Her name removed from the org chart by Friday. HR called me in Monday morning. We apologize. Thank you for bringing this to our attention. Your accounts are reinstated and we'd like to discuss a promotion. I didn't smile. I just said, I'll send you a meeting invite. Full thread included? Some people weaponize miscommunication, but screenshots don't lie. And now, let's talk about a wedding that never happened because the groom disappeared, and the bride decided to marry something else entirely, his financial record. We were supposed to get married on a Sunday. By Wednesday, he was missing. By Friday, I turned the ceremony into a personal TED Talk on betrayal, and my ex-fiance's finances were the main feature. Let me explain. His name was Kyle. Charming, safe, a little boring, but in a dependable way. We've been together 3 years. Planned everything together, the venue, the catering, the registry. The only thing he planned without me. His escape. 3 days before the wedding, I woke up to this text. I need space. I'll be off the grid for a bit. Don't worry. No call. No explanation. No follow-up. I tried his phone, dead. I messaged his mom. She was as confused as I was. His best man claimed Kyle's just overwhelmed. But I knew. This wasn't cold feet. This was a ghosting in formal wear. By Friday morning, I was done crying. And then I got a message request on Instagram from a girl named Alana. She said, hey, I think we have the same fiance. Attached. A photo of Kyle, shirtless, in Cancun, drinking a margarita, on what should have been our rehearsal dinner night. That's when I cracked. But not emotionally, strategically. See, Kyle and I had a shared bank account for wedding expenses. I paid for most of it. But Kyle, he'd used the account to buy flights and hotel reservations. For her, I also had access to his credit monitoring profile, passwords he never changed, copies of his tax returns. So I made a plan. I didn't cancel the wedding. I told the venue I'd still use the space, just no groom needed. Then I put together a 14-minute presentation called Things I've Learned About Kyle Since He Left. It included receipts of our joint wedding savings, screenshots of his charges in Cancun, his Tinder profile still active, and a breakdown of his credit card debt, credit score, and his most recent business investment, which was literally an NFT shaped like a duck in a cowboy hat. On Sunday, the wedding began. People sat in awkward silence. My maid of honor whispered, "You sure about this?" I said, "Absolutely." I walked down the aisle to single ladies, took the mic, and gave the most brutal toast of my life. Everyone got a brochure. What Kyle spent while I planned our future. I ended the speech with, "I may not be leaving here with a husband, but I am leaving here with his financial data and enough identity verification to apply for 6 credit cards in his name." Laughter, applause. One aunt gasped. I wasn't serious. But emotionally, I was dead serious. Kyle's family was there. His mom cried. His brother high-fived me. The story hit TikTok the next day. 3 million views. Kyle texted me a week later. "That was cruel." I replied, "So was your timing." Then I blocked him. You can disappear before the wedding, but don't expect to walk away clean. Because when you ghost someone who paid for the party, you better pray they don't own a projector. Friends, thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Pro Revenge series here on TalkBacks. I hope you enjoyed today's stories. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up and leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and click that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss another revenge story. See you next time.